Have you ever wondered why life feels unfair? Why something bad had to happen to you? Or why, when everything seems perfect, life suddenly changes? Sometimes we feel crushed by struggles. Other times, success makes us proud, forgetting that everything we have is temporary. The truth is, neither good nor bad lasts forever. What feels painful today may save you tomorrow, and what feels joyful now may carry tomorrow's lesson. That's why this story is important. Listen carefully, because it may change the way you see your own life. At the foot of a green hill, beside a dense forest, there was a small village. In that village lived a humble man named Edward. He was middle-aged, poor, and often struggled just to provide 2 meals a day. Yet Edward was different from most people. Even in poverty, he never complained. He had a gift. He accepted life as it came, with gratitude. His son David often asked, "Father, why don't you ever complain like others do? Don't you ever feel unlucky?" Edward would smile gently and reply, "My son, worry steals our joy, but gratitude multiplies it." David could never fully understand these words, but he always felt a sense of calm when his father spoke them. Edward owned a small piece of land. Every day he worked hard on his crops. Helping him were David and their beautiful white horse, Maxwell. Maxwell wasn't an ordinary horse. He was strong, intelligent, and loyal. It often felt like he understood their words without being told. To Edward and David, Maxwell was not just an animal. He was family, a companion in their struggles, and a source of hope in their simple lives. One day, news about Maxwell spread beyond the village. A wealthy merchant named Mr. Johnson arrived with his son to see the horse. When he saw Maxwell's strength and elegance, he was stunned. "I'll pay you a fortune for this horse," he said eagerly. The villagers watched in silence, expecting Edward to accept. For a poor man, this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance to escape poverty. But to their shock, Edward shook his head politely. "Thank you, sir. But Maxwell is part of our family. He cannot be sold." The villagers were shocked. They gossiped and mocked Edward. "What a fool! Who rejects such wealth? He'll stay poor forever." But Edward stayed calm, as though nothing had happened. He simply returned to his daily work, his heart steady, while others whispered behind his back. Then one morning, disaster struck. Maxwell disappeared. His stable was empty. Edward and David searched the fields and forests, calling his name. But Maxwell was gone. This time, the villagers laughed even louder. "See, Edward wouldn't sell him, and now he's lost everything. He deserves this." David's heart was broken. "Father, why aren't you upset?" "We've lost Maxwell. He was everything to us." Edward simply placed a hand on his son's shoulder and said, "Don't be too quick to judge, son. What looks bad now may turn out differently later." David didn't understand, but he trusted his father's words. Days later, something incredible happened. As Edward and David worked in their field, they suddenly heard hooves. To their astonishment, Maxwell galloped back, but he wasn't alone. Behind him ran 5 wild horses. The villagers rushed to see. "Edward is the luckiest man alive," they exclaimed. "He lost 1 horse, but now he has 6. David's eyes shone with excitement, but he noticed something unusual. His father remained calm. No pride, no excitement. "Father, why don't you look happy? Isn't this a blessing?" Edward smiled. "It might be, or it might not. Don't rush to call it good or bad." David began training the wild horses. Each day he worked tirelessly, trying to tame them. But one afternoon, one of the horses threw him violently to the ground. David screamed in agony. His leg was broken. The villagers shook their heads. These horses are a curse. Edward was greedy, and now his son suffers. That night David lay in bed, pain shooting through his leg. "Father," he said bitterly, "this time it truly is bad. I can't walk. How can you still say, 'Time will tell'?" Edward sat beside him and said gently, "Son, life's events cannot be judged so quickly. What looks terrible today may save you tomorrow. Let's wait and see." David felt frustrated. But just 1 week later, everything changed. A war broke out across the country. Soldiers came to the village, taking all the young men to fight. Families wept. Mothers clung to their sons, and fear swept the village. But David was spared because of his broken leg. News arrived weeks later. Many of the village boys had died in battle. Grief filled every home. Parents came to Edward weeping. "You are so lucky, Edward. Your son was spared. We lost ours." David finally understood. Losing Maxwell had brought them more horses. Breaking his leg had kept him from being taken to war. His father had been right, all along. That evening, Edward sat beside David, who now looked at life with new eyes. "Son," Edward said softly, "now do you see? Life is never simply good or bad. What seems like a curse today may turn into a blessing tomorrow. What seems like a blessing may carry its own trials. That is why I never celebrate too much in success, and I never despair too deeply in pain. Everything passes. What matters is patience, gratitude, and faith." Tears welled up in David's eyes. For the first time, he truly understood his father's wisdom. He promised himself never to complain in hardship, and never to lose himself in pride. He realized that his father's calmness was not weakness, but strength built from years of faith and acceptance. And that is the lesson for us too. When life feels unfair, don't despair. When things go well, don't get carried away. Remember, good and bad are only chapters. They will pass. God's plan is greater than your moment. You may not understand it today, but one day, you will. Before we end, let's learn some English together. Word of the day, humble, meaning simple, not proud. Sentence, Edward was a humble man who lived a simple life. Phrase of the day, time will tell, meaning the future will show the truth. Sentence, when Maxwell disappeared, Edward said, "Time will tell if it is good or bad." Now I want to ask you, has there been a moment in your life when something painful later turned into a blessing? Share it in the comments with the word balance. And let's inspire one another. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the Growth Tales for more motivational stories that not only inspire, but also help you improve your English every day.